What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We're back doing another preview video for round 2 of the Six Nations 2024. We've already done one for the England-Wales game. They came up with their teams before these two teams were just introduced. So game 2 is already done. This is game 1 of the weekend. Scotland versus France. We're going to be checking out the teams that have been announced, giving a bit of a reaction, going over who's some good picks, some bad picks, any changes we think we might have made along the way, and some thoughts and expectations how we think this game is going to go. And then finally, of course, giving that all-important score prediction. I'll probably still be nowhere near to by the end of the game. If you enjoy this one, make sure to leave it the old like button, help with that YouTube algorithm, all that good stuff. Going into this one then, we'll start out by talking about the home team, Scotland. Now, Scotland last week played Wales. I got to go watch this game over in the Principality, and Scotland had a roaring first half, had no obstacles in their way, were allowed to do whatever they fancy doing. Duhan van der Merwe having a great time out on the wing, not really doing that much. I've seen a lot of stuff talking about that he was, player of the match. I saw loads of people saying player of the round, Duhan van der Merwe. I was at the game. Duhan van der Merwe did not do an awful lot. His socks were awfully white by the end of the game, but when he did have the ball, scoring tries, and almost got a hat-trick by the end of that game. But at the end of that first half, 20-0 in the lead. Scotland are up on everything they could ever hope for in that game, in the Principality, in Wales. They're doing superb. And then that second half just began to get away from them, didn't it? So many penalties. The Wales bench players were coming on, making a huge difference to the way they were playing. Scotland put on the back foot. Yellow cards going against them. Tui Pilotu and George Turner. Penalties coming in, and Wales fought all the way back to take that game at 26 points. Scotland just about holding out on 27. My goodness, was that a hell of a game to watch. So, in all honesty, I think there's a lot more problems in this Scotland team than I thought going into the tournament. Now, going up against France is going to be a really tough ask, and some big changes are going to be needed because that second half performance, while you might just about get away with it with Wales at the minute, I don't think you'll get away with it with France. So we'll see how they've got on with the team now. So starting off in this front row, Pierre Schoeman, George Turner, and Xander Fagerson. Now, interestingly, even though throughout the game I actually thought Scotland were looking like the dominant team physically in terms of the forwards, they lost their own scrums. They gave away penalties, collapsing in their own put-in against a Wales team that didn't really feel like it was firing on all cylinders either. So that is something that needs to be shifted up. We know the power game that France bring, so the scrum time could be really bad. If you can't even win the scrum on your own put-in, let alone the ones going against you, that will really need to be sorted out in that front row. And George Turner as well with his just that discipline, that yellow card coming in for last week as well. Got to be cutting all that out because France will absolutely punish you for that. Pierre Schoeman had a good game to be fair. Got himself over for a try. Always nice to see a prop score a try, right? And here in the stadium goes ooh as he gets over for the try. In the lock department, Grant Gilchrist comes back in alongside Scott Cummings. He's got over his ban after his 2 yellow card thing he had right in the club level. He had to miss the first game. There's been some switching round in the back rows now this week. I believe it is Crosby's gone out with his injury. So Matt Fagerson moves into the 6 shirt. Jack Dempsey starts at 8. And Rory Darge starts at open side at 7 as co-captain. They've got 2 co-captains plus a vice-captain. I feel at some point you've got too many leaders. I feel like that could be condensed down. I'm not sure you need 2 co-captains plus a vice-captain, but hey, what do I know about being on a pitch and an international rugby match? So they switch around the team a little bit. I think Grant Gilchrist is still a solid player to get in. That discipline needs to be looked at though, because I think he's been caught for a couple of those silly tackles that will just give away those easy cards. Can't afford to be doing that against France. The back row, Matt Fagerson. It's quiet last week. I picked him in the fantasy. I expected him to be smashing it from number 8. I've always thought of Matt Fagerson. He plays in a similar way to Jack Conan in the way that he's a number 8 who goes into the back field and he's on these counter-attacking runs. Didn't really see a lot from him. So moving to 6 this week. Hopefully Jack Dempsey can do a bit more from 8. But I'm looking forward to see Darge back in the 7 shirt. In the halfback partnership, then Ben White back alongside Finn Russell. I still think this is the better partnership to work on. Finn Russell had an interesting game. Quite a few issues just around the park. A couple of decisions made that make you sort of question what he was going for. A couple of times Scotland had possession of the ball and Finn Russell decided to go for a kick. Some of them are phenomenal things, right? He's getting a 50-22. He's kicking it all the way down the field. Fantastic things. And then some of them come off and they're just like, this isn't doing anything. This is just a kick to nothing, going nowhere. He had kicks charged down. Felt a little bit of pressure coming against him against that Wales game. Just a bit more consistency. We like to see Finn Russell do the sort of wild card element, but just a little bit more consistency I think would be nice, just to let this Scotland team, settle down and not just let Finn Russell do Finn Russell things. I did see, for anyone who's seen the Six Nations thing on Netflix, where he called himself the Messi of rugby, I did see a lot of comments last week from people saying in the first half he was Messi and in the second half he was messy. And I did kind of like that. I like a bit of wordplay when it comes to the old rugby world. In terms of the centre partnership then, Sione Tuipulotu going back in alongside Hugh Jones. Tuipulotu got in some people's team of the weeks. I don't think had a particularly good game, especially when you got people like Manincello and the way he was playing over in Italy. Tuipulotu again got his yellow card last week. Defending hard, but I don't think it's the best game I've seen him play in the most recent years. And then in that back three, Duhan van der Merwe, Kyle Steyn, and Kyle Rowe. Kyle Rowe was busy. And I'm really glad for it. I thought that could be a weak link in the armour for Scotland, was going to be not having Kinghorn in that fullback shirt. Kyle Rowe, actually, I thought was all over the park and had, was good work, just desperate to get involved with everything. Not necessarily got everything right, but, I think he was busy enough that it looked good to me. So I'm glad he had a good game. Duhan van der Merwe getting 2 tries, not quite 3. It is really interesting, though, when you actually go and see a game live and you get to see the whole pitch, not just what the camera angles are showing you, and you actually see how much Duhan van der Merwe in that game was just stood on his wing, just waiting while other stuff was going on. He's the one that ends up scoring the tries, just picking the right times to get involved and be the one who gets over. That's what you want to be seeing. In the replacements then, Ewan Ashman, Hepburn and Miller Mills come in as the replacement front row. Sam Skinner, Andy Christie are your replacement forwards alongside them, with George Horn, Ben Healy and Cam Redpath. Maybe could have got a look to a start, Cam Redpath. I still don't feel we've seen enough game time for him to really feel how he fits into the Scotland team. Tuipulotu didn't blow me away, but he's in there as his vice captain. So Gregor Townsend's really sort of cementing him in that inside centre shirt. I think Cam Redpath could have looked at it, to be fair. 2 really attacking centres of Cam Redpath and Hugh Jones. I could have put some pressure on the French centre partnership, but hey, we'll see how that gets on. The front row replacements as well. I think that's the one area I'm a little bit concerned about with this Scotland team. Is going to be that front row. Last week they didn't really perform against Wales in terms of scrum time where I wanted to see them. The bench as well, a little bit less experience than maybe you'd want. France are a big power team. And if they start getting put on the back foot like Wales did with them, just that endless attacking streak that we know France can bring as well, I'm a little bit concerned for this Scotland team. And I didn't think I was going to be saying that going into this tournament, but before this game, I'm potentially a little bit concerned about how they're going to get on in this one. Talking about France then, let's talk about the opposition. Last week, played Ireland and looked scrappy themselves, to be fair. Got their red card, Paul Valemsa, 2 yellows, but yellow 2 was upgraded to a red. Yeah, Ireland took that one. Convincing scoreline at the end. I actually thought France held on quite well, to be fair. I don't think the red card necessarily was the losing factor of the game. Obviously, it makes a big impact later into the game because all the players have had to work that extra 1/15th harder around the park, and it just began to slip away from them. I feel that game was a little bit scrappy as it was going on, and Ireland just built into it a little bit better. I really think France are missing the likes of Antoine Dupont to really get them on the front foot sometimes. But going up against Scotland, I think they're 2 teams that have got a little bit to work on, so it's going to be a really, really fun game, this one. So I go to the front row then. Sirobai, Malvaka and Antonio. Once again, Julien Marchand still on the bench. I think he scored quite well in the Fantasy League coming on from the bench. People did him as the super sub. I think this is still a good work to go for the power front row. I think Antonio had a good game last week. In the lock department, Cam Vogie goes in alongside of Gabriel Gus. I mean, they're run out of locks, right? They got to be by now. They lost... I can't think what the lad's name is. Mayfu. They lost him before it came in. They lost Taufai Fanua just before the last week's game. They've lost Paul Valemsa. Lock department's got to be looking a little bit thin over in the French team. So something to really look at. I don't think I've read anything about new players being called up or something. Again, I think this could maybe be something to look at for Scotland and what they could punish, because they punished the Wales lineup. The Wales lineup wasn't great, but Scotland were getting involved in that lineup and really causing a lot of issues. So doing it against France, I think is going to be, just as important for this one. In the back row, Francois Corse goes in alongside of Charles Olivon and Gregory Aldrit as the captain once again. Again, working hard, isn't he, Gregory Aldrit in this French team. 1 through 8, it feels like a great team on paper. I feel that's a really solid 1 through 8. It's almost, bar maybe the lock areas, a team you'd see in the World Cup, in the pool stages, in the quarterfinals, right? You expect big things from this team. I don't think it was their game to go up against Ireland in the first round last week. I think they might have wanted a couple of warm-up games before getting into that one. But against this Scotland team, they may be looking at a couple of those areas where the forwards can really begin to exploit it. In the halfback partnership, Maxime Lucu goes back in alongside Matteo Jalibert. Yeah, and like I sort of said, I think they're missing Antoine Dupont. I know Lucu and Jalibert, should have this great partnership working together. I didn't see either of these players really being the ones to sort of pick the lock and find their way around Ireland and causing a lot of nuisance there. Someone like Antoine Dupont, you've just always got to watch because he's going to do something himself. It didn't feel like that threat was there. It just allowed Ireland to set up a little bit more defensively. And I think they need to be a bit more aggressive. Maxime Lucu needs to be looking for a few more of those sniping runs. Keep that Scottish defence, on their toes at all times and try and cause a bit of an issue. In the centre partnership, Jonathan Darnty goes in alongside of Gaël Ficou. And then in the back three, Louis Bielbiarri comes in alongside of Damien Penaud and Thomas Ramos in the fullback show. Looking forward to see Bielbiarri coming back in. Mo Farner started last week, and I remember saying in that preview video, I was like, I'm not really sure that's the right move, and I can't say I saw Mo Farner explode and go wild in that game, to be honest. Bielbiarri, I think it's a bit more of a threat. Going to be a fun game to watch him go up against Kyle Steyn, to be fair, because they feel like they've got a bit of a similar skill set in terms of speed and just finding that room and going on tech. I'm looking forward to see that matchup. But you need these boys to be making big waves. Damien Penaud got over for a try last week against Ireland, but other than that instance, and I can think of about one or two other runs, I can't say I saw a great deal from him, and he's one of those players that if you give him room, you get the ball to him early and you let him open up, he's the one that can score tries for you. I'm sort of convincing myself actually now as I'm going through this. I'm actually thinking maybe Scotland are in with a really good shot of taking this one. And then in terms of the replacement, Julien Marchand goes in alongside of Taufifenua, not the other one. This is Sebastian Taufifenua, the prop, and Al Degheri. In the replacement forwards alongside them, we have Pasolo Tuilagi, the new Tuilagi, to get called up to the French team, who I didn't realise was a lock. I thought he was a front row, but he's in there in the 19 shirt, so I'm guessing he's a lock. I don't know a lot about him, but he's a bit of a monster. So I wouldn't want to tackle him. So he's going in there alongside of Roumat and Boudouin. So we've got the 6-2 split once again going in for France. They're trying to back that power game. I don't think that's a bad move. I think in that second half especially, the Wales ruck speed was beginning to increase, and that was really being a nuisance for that Scotland team to be able to defend. Just how quickly Wales were getting the ball back and trying to ship it out wide and stuff. Back in the 6-2, back in your own power game. Maybe they're not going to be looked to play in a super expansive game, but just the ability to get the ball fast off the back of the ruck and reload your forwards, I still think might be the right way to play against this Scotland team at the minute. And then the replacement backs, Le Garrec go back in alongside of Mo Farner, of course, centre or wing it wherever you fancy him. So, what do we expect from this game? Genuinely, I don't know. I think this game has really opened up to potentially be anyone's game. Scotland had a really solid half, and they've sort of shown to me, if Scotland are allowed to play their way, they're allowed to take control of the game, Scotland will just run your team into the ground. And they looked very comfortable doing it against Wales in that first half. The cracks began to stem from as soon as Wales took control, you felt the momentum shift. In the stadium, you felt the momentum shift. And suddenly, Scotland are on the back foot. They're desperately trying. My best hope for Scotland would be that they went in at half-time 20-0 in the lead, and Gregor Townsend said, boys, we've won this game. Give Wales the ball, and let's practice our defence a bit, and let's get ready for some of the other games. That's my best hope. I don't believe that's what happened, but I can only hope that's what happened to Scotland, to not just get completely turned over. This France team, if you perform like that in the second half and you just let them run over you, this France team will be in with a comfortable win, I think. So it's maintaining that consistent pressure and not letting that control get away from Scotland to be able to take this one. I think Finn Russell's going to be really, really important. You can't really be affording to do too many of those mistakes that we got to see against Wales. You'll want to have him on absolute top of his game. France will want to target him and try and put him under the pressure and really try and neutralise that Scotland attack. From a France standpoint, I'm expecting power 6-2. I don't think they'll be too happy with that Ireland game, to be honest. I don't think it was the best performance by them. Wasn't helped by a red card. 6-2 again. Load up your forwards. I can see driving more tries in this one. I can see that's how France will want to go about it. We've seen them off the back of set plays. I mean, the backs for France know how to play with each other as well. off the back of a set piece, the set play that will come is a massive, massive danger area for a lot of teams going against France. We saw Penaud come away with a try last week. We've seen the likes of Ramos partnering up with some of these guys. They run all these loops around. They like to spread it wide very quickly and try and gain that extra man. It's going to be whether Scotland can handle the forward pressure, which I've cast my mind back to the World Cup. I think of that South Africa game. You know, South Africa came in with the big forward pack. Scotland absolutely held up for the first half and really put South Africa, you know, up against it. And then that second half, when the bench started coming on, it began to creak away from them. And then South Africa ended up taking that one by quite a bit by the end of it. So what do we think in terms of a score prediction for this game? I don't know. It's one of those games. I really don't know. I'm still leaning towards France. I think they'll be more annoyed at their overall performance. I think they've got Sean Edwards barking in their ear. They're going over to Murrayfield, which I think is a really big bolster for Scotland to bounce back from that second half against Wales. I'm going to lean towards France. I'm going to say France. I'm going to say by 4. I'm going to go low. I think it might be a bit of a lower scoring game. It might be a high scoring game, but actually close to each other, because I don't think either of these teams is quite at the level they want to be at. It might end up being quite a few scores, but I'm going to go for a close score game. I'm going to say France by 4. Make sure you drop down in the comment section your thoughts on the teams, as well as your own score predictions. I always enjoy having a read through them. And of course, make sure you hit the old subscribe button so you know when all the latest videos are out on the channel. There'll be one coming out tomorrow at some point, Ireland versus Italy, and then of course we'll have the fantasy picks for the Guinness Six Nations. I'll be putting that out on the channel as well before the first kickoff of the first game. I hope you've all enjoyed this one today, guys. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.